Well, ladies and gentlemen, Star Wars: The Last Jedi was released, and it was nothing like we expected, which could be a good thing or a bad thing depending on how you set yourself up expectation-wise before a movie, or how much you desperately wanted, which you played out in your brain to play out on the big screen. So, if you didn't like The Last Jedi, I understand. I can see how I can be very close to not liking The Last Jedi. However, I'm on the other end. I absolutely love The Last Jedi. Uh, Full disclosure, I've spent thousands of dollars on Star Wars toys. I buy Star Wars merchandise. I have all the lightsabers. I've made multiple videos where I ramble on talking about the movie for hours. So I am a hardcore fan. You can look at me and say, this guy is biased. He would suck on the teat of Star Wars no matter what. You could do that. You could say that. You should take that in when you listen to me talk about the movie right now. That being said, I did go see Star Wars with many friends of mine that love the franchise as well, just as much as I do, and they hated the movie. I did go see the movie 3 times. I think rewatches were important with a lot of the stuff because it was a lot of movie. A lot of movie. Now, initially, when I first thought about doing a Star Wars breakdown, my first thought of doing a video is, I'm going to break down where it'll go from here, the possibilities, the stuff that maybe we missed and things like that, which I will do, except I'm also going to defend the movie a bit, which is funny because why do I have to defend it? I don't. I love it. That's how it is. Except people get caught up on the wrong shit. People miss points. People say some stupid things, like some idiot tweeted at me like, what? Kylo Ren is the good guy now? Fucking moron. So there's lots of idiots out there. So I want to address a lot of the idiotic things, or maybe the things that bothered you at first that you didn't really consider. And I want to go over all of those because understanding the movie and what it's doing and correcting the people that, are mad about the wrong things, and there are plenty of things you can be mad about. Correcting that is important because that determines the future of this franchise, the future of this story and where it goes and everything. And I just love where they went in this movie to do that. It's almost a favorite pastime of the internet to bash Star Wars movies, which is funny because they've never been perfect. They've never been perfect movies. And to lots of people, they haven't been good movies. So when a Star Wars comes out, people hold it to this standard that is so much more extreme than any other movie. Like people don't do that with Marvel movies. Definitely not. They're just, it was good. Yeah, it wasn't. Whatever, this, that. But Star Wars is different because Star Wars we look at on so many levels, visually, the sounds, everything. And I mean, when you go back and watch Star Wars movies, I don't think of it as like the pinnacle of acting at all. So I never expect the acting to be amazing or anything like that. But that being said, let's get right into it. I got my notes over here, and I'm just going to roll with it. First, I want to talk about some problems that people had. And I can't address every problem. I do have problems as well, okay? I'll tell you right off the bat, my problems were Leia's moment. Not it itself, just how it was portrayed. I can get into it more. Maz Kanata's feature, and the two elderly women, Leia and the other, being like, may the Force be with you. Okay. That also bothered me. And a couple of other things that are far more subtle. The rest, casino scene, all that stuff, the jokes, I'll tell you why I loved it. They had a purpose, a very huge purpose. And although they could have changed things here and there, you cannot disregard multiple things they've done in this movie because they were very important. Just not what you expected, perhaps. So I want to address multiple points right at the beginning. Star Wars is Star Wars. Okay? If your complaint is that Star Wars is too Disney, then you don't know what Star Wars is. Okay? Because from the very beginning, Star Wars has been cute, cuddly, and funny. From the very beginning, teddy bears beat the Empire in the original Star Wars trilogy, and Yoda's the strongest Jedi in the entire series. He was a green Muppet. He was a Jim Henson Muppet. So if you look at Star Wars now and go, oh, it's too Disney. They made it so Disney. I gotta say, you're wrong. It's been teddy bears and little green Muppet goblins from the very beginning, and Anything else is something that you must have convinced yourself of that it's not that, because that is what it is, right? So I would actually debate that it's very not Disney. Dudes got their legs cut off. People got cut in half, and Luke Skywalker drank tit milk. So, in my opinion, no, it's not Disney. It's not Disney at all. It's Star Wars. Star Wars is its own thing. I do want to blanket. Acting has never been a high point in the series. I mean, in the original Star Wars trilogy, Princess Leia goes in and out of a British accent randomly. Some of Luke Skywalker's lines are incredibly ridiculous. So Star Wars being Star Wars, acting has never been a high point. Han Solo in the last one was some of the best acting I've seen in Star Wars before. You know, Obi-Wan had a great performance. We've had legendary actors like Christopher Lee. But it's not like people leave Star Wars and they go, great acting. And that's because the script itself is very campy, and that's just something about it, you know? If you look at it and you're like, oh, I hate porgs, or anything else that they forced in to sell merchandise, once again, that is Star Wars being Star Wars. At least the porgs didn't gather together and beat the First Order, but the Ewoks did. So if you have a problem with porgs, you've had a problem with Star Wars since the very beginning. Nothing new here. There are quotes that were sent to you from the very beginning, even before with trailers. So if you have an issue with that, or it went against your expectations, you kind of walked in not getting a clue, and they gave you many clues. They said many times, they had Luke Skywalker say, it's time for the Jedi to end. They had Kylo Ren say, let the past die, kill it if you have to. Yoda has gone on and said, in the movie, failure is the best teacher. And Luke has said, this is not going to go the way you think. Now, even at the beginning of the movie, when Luke grabs the lightsaber, he throws it over his shoulder. I guess that bothered people. I laughed. I thought it was amazing. Everyone spoke about it for 2 years. He takes it and throws it over the cliff. Genius. What that was saying to me was, throw your expectations away. Throw them away. You see, because The Last Jedi is a very important Star Wars movie. This is why it's important. A New Hope came out, and when it ended, people were like, wow, where are they going to go from here? Will Luke Skywalker become a Jedi? Will he ever see Darth Vader again? What will happen? And that was the last Star Wars movie released where we didn't know where they were going. We had no idea. Empire Strikes Back came out, and when it ended, we were like, oh, so they got to rescue Han Solo. Luke has to get a robot arm because his hand is gone. He's got to confront his father. He's got to face the Emperor. And whatever happens, they're the rebellion. That's what they got to do. And then when that movie ended, you saw Return of the Jedi, and it ended very conclusively. You know, there was closure there. But moving right along, the next movie that came out, you know, removing all the shit ones, the Christmas specials and stuff. The next movie that came out was the prequels. Now, Phantom Menace, the high points like, oh, the Jedi are betting on Anakin Skywalker. Yeah, he's going to win the pod race. Oh, will they get this slave boy and be able to train him as a Jedi? Yes, they do. We know where this story goes. Even if there's little details, we know where it goes. Oh, who's Darth Maul's master? We know. It's the Emperor. The next movie, Anakin and Obi-Wan, they're going to have a spit. Oh, Padme is going to start to, lure Anakin unintentionally to the dark side. Where's this going to go? We know where it goes. The next episode, episode 3, where's it going to go? Well, it's going to end with him being Darth Vader. We know that. And then Rogue One comes out. We know how Rogue One ends because we know exactly where it plays in the story. We know how it goes. The Force Awakens comes out. And maybe, just maybe, we don't know where this movie's going. Except it starts off with an important message hidden inside a droid. The main bad guy wears all black and he's scary and has a robotic voice. And he bows down to a very powerful, mysterious leader, supreme leader. And there is a conflict between our scary dude Kylo, a la Vader, and the First Order, a la Imperial Army. So, they unveil a gigantic Death Star, and when you're watching this movie, you're instantly like, oh, I know where this goes, because I've seen this before. There will be a heroic sacrifice, and they'll blow up the Death Star. I've seen that. So, in my lifetime, I'm born in 1985, a Star Wars movie has not been released where I don't know where the fuck it's going. but I thought I would prepare myself. I sat down, and you guys were there. You were all there. We sat down for 2 years and we said, Snoke is this, Snoke is that, Snoke will do this, Snoke will do that. Kylo Ren, like, he should grow up. Maybe he'll turn. Maybe Rey will turn. Rey's a Skywalker. Rey's a Kenobi. Rey is Snoke. Snoke is a hidden rebel spy. Kylo Ren's a double agent. Luke will come at the end and be like a Force god and blow up all the AT-ATs. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. We spoke for 2 years. We're like, Luke's going to get that lightsaber and cry, and he's going to levitate the Red 5 X-Wing from the water and hop in, and he's going to fly and save the day with a million Jedi moves. I mean, you can go watch my old videos. I spoke about it. You were all there. We sat down and we spoke about it, and every single thing we suggested was exactly what we know. It was everything we've ever seen in every Star Wars before. And rightfully so. Star Wars has been extremely safe. It's been a poem that rhymes, like George Lucas says. It's been a repeating thing. I knew where The Last Jedi goes, and I knew where the next movie would go. And what they did in this movie was they fucked my shit up. And they fucked your shit up too. Nobody knew Snoke was going to die this one. People made the mistake right off the bat of thinking Snoke matters. But he didn't. And that's a beautiful thing. The fact that everyone's like, oh my God, they set up Snoke as the ultimate villain. Yeah, you know what? We've seen that before. It was the Emperor. Except they foreshadowed this movie in the last one. Kylo Ren said it very clearly. He said, Darth Vader, I'm going to finish what you started. And he did. He killed his master, and he's the supreme leader. He's dominating the galaxy. That's fucking hype. I didn't know that. I thought Rey and Kylo would be like back-to-back fighting Snoke, and Luke would come in and save them last minute like it was a fucking 90s action movie, but that's not it. This is new. This is all new. For the first time in my life, Star Wars is new again. I have no idea where they're going. But I'll tell you this. Kylo Ren was interesting to me before. I found The Force Awakens very interesting. When he held the blaster bolt, I was like, oh, this is the strongest person we've ever seen in Star Wars. When he read someone's mind, I was like, never seen that in Star Wars. When he froze someone, I was like, we've never seen that in Star Wars. This guy is very powerful. Who is this girl? Who is Rey? She's got to be a Skywalker. You know the rules. George Lucas said it. If she's going toe-to-toe with someone, she's got to be a Skywalker. It's all about Skywalkers. It's got to be about Skywalkers. Now let's go back to the first time I ever saw Star Wars, A New Hope. Obi-Wan passes Luke the lightsaber, and Luke starts to believe in the Force. And I used to be like, wow, Luke believes in the Force. That's so cool. Like, I could believe in the Force, and I could have the Force. I could be a Jedi. You know, Han Solo's not a Jedi, because Han Solo's like, I prefer a good blaster to some hokey magic. To me, that was like why he wasn't a Jedi. He could have been, though. If him and Chewbacca believed, they could have been. But then the prequels did something that took that away. And when people talk about the prequels, it's always been my number one issue with the prequels. I said that I didn't like that there was a Force-sensitive scoreboard built inside all of us with a midichlorian count. And the Skywalkers have the highest ones. And only the Skywalkers, after Episode 3, were the only people that had any midichlorians. And no one had it. From Episode 4 to Episode 6, there's no Force-sensitive people. There's Skywalkers, Emperor. And that bummed me out. It was something I didn't necessarily like, but I adopted it and I believed it. And when Episode 7 played The Force Awakens, I thought Rey was somebody. And only at the end of the movie does Kylo pull it out of her. She's nobody. She's you. She's me. She's the little farm boy at the end of the movie that Force pulls the broom. Everyone has the Force again. The Force is no longer something that belongs to the Skywalker bloodline. It's out there. And it's not just random. Snoke said it. Snoke said there was an awakening. Did you feel it? Not to mention that awakening is timed perfectly with Finn snapping out of the Stormtrooper brainwash, you know. Rey coming to fulfill her destiny, which is interesting. There is no destiny. She's us. You know what's a beautiful thing if you go back to The Force Awakens is you could play The Force Awakens and Rey could be your created character. Like they could play through episode 7, 8, 9 and you could just create your own character and you can make Harley. And this entire movie still plays through with you as Rey, with you holding Anakin's lightsaber. What this movie did was it made every future Jedi after episode 8 us. Because we heard the legends of Luke Skywalker. We saw the legends of Luke Skywalker, grandson of fallen Jedi Anakin Skywalker, who becomes Darth Vader. We know who Luke is. We know the legend of Luke Skywalker. He made us all want to be a Jedi. And now if we all want to be a Jedi, we're following the legend of Luke Skywalker. The one thing that this movie really kept sacred about Star Wars was Luke Skywalker and what he leaves behind. So how cool is this universe to me? Very cool. A universe where every single future Jedi is essentially a student of the legend of Luke Skywalker. And who are they battling? They're battling the grandson of Anakin Skywalker. And what's so special about him? Well, he did what Darth Vader couldn't. He beat Luke Skywalker. He beat his master. And who's his master? Well, his master was stronger than Darth Vader and stronger than the Emperor. This Skywalker is the strongest Skywalker we've ever seen. And who will stand between him and the destruction of the galaxy? Someone in his bloodline? No. Us. Regular people. Regular people with no parents, or their parents are nobodies, or they don't come from anything, or they're poor farm boys, or they're a random alien species. It doesn't matter. Anyone could and should stand up to the Skywalker bloodline, which has now become the most evil force out there. Kylo Ren is a fucking badass. Told you since day one. And this Rey thing, I mean, I did have lots of theories, but my last video did say this. Makes me think she's not a Skywalker. She's not anybody. She's not anything. When I first watched Star Wars back in the day, before the prequels came out, it was like anyone could be a Jedi. Anyone. The Force is all around us. Anyone can deal with the Force. Anyone can manipulate the Force. You just need to believe in it. And then in the prequels, they introduced the midichlorians. And it's like, oh, he's got a high midichlorian count. Yeah, there's actually like a Force scoreboard built inside of you. And 27,000 is a real high score, Anakin. That whole aspect, although interesting, kind of took away from the fact that anybody could be a Jedi. Anybody. And I think that's what Rey's purpose is. I don't think they're going to go and retcon away the whole midichlorian count. I think they're just going to say, hey, even this random girl can be someone special. And even Finn, a nobody, can break the brainwashing of the First Order and become something special. Poe Dameron, it's one thing to be born by a Force tree, but just this regular rebel pilot can be the best damn pilot in the galaxy. All you need to do is believe in the Force. And I think that's what they're bringing back. And Rey is going to be the one that is, if she is not a Skywalker or not a Kenobi or not an anybody, she is going to be the poster child for the Force is inside all of us. You just need to believe. And I kind of like that because it was a beautiful thing of the original trilogies that was lost when we got all scientific about explaining why some people are Jedis and some are not. And one thing about Star Wars movies is you could sit there and nitpick the scenes that characters were in, like, oh my God, they didn't get enough screen time. Let me tell you something. If they're introduced in a Star Wars movie, then that's the blessing. Take that character, because Marvel will, and they're going to come out with a billion storylines about them. Think about it. Boba Fett was in the movie for a total of 4 minutes of screen time and got swallowed by the desert's vagina. That's literally what he did, but his introduction led to a million stories. Phasma, if you were unhappy, there's going to be lots of Phasma stories. Let me tell you something. That was a big stepping stone for Finn. Even in this movie, he's running from the First Order, and for the first time, he put a dent in their armor, literally. And I think she'll be back. I think she's like kind of like a T-1000. I mean, her armor in the second movie takes bullets, so I can only assume it'll be safe from fire. And she has a cape, so she could fly. That's a joke. If you're like, but what about Snoke? Yo, what about Snoke? He's a bitch. Snoke fucked up. You know why Snoke fucked up? Because he's the strongest, most intense dark side guy ever. He's so powerful, blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you something. You don't fuck with a Skywalker. And Snoke, way too often, way too many times, fucked with a Skywalker, but not just any Skywalker, not ultra conflicted Anakin who had love. He was fucking with a Skywalker that Luke tried to kill, shamefully so. And like, that's got to have an effect on you. And he's the strongest Skywalker. Snoke fucked up. Who is Snoke? He's an idiot is who he is. Snoke is so fucking dumb, he built a big-ass Death Star. Are you an idiot? You built the same thing again? Like, think about Starkiller Base. This is Snoke's plan. Snoke deserved to die. He's a fool. Yeah, he's so strong. He's so powerful. Yeah, he's a fucking idiot. He got Kylo. Boom. Got him. Boom. Got him. Like, I was already Team Kylo, so the fact that Kylo is 15 pounds heavier of solid muscle and cut Snoke that bitch in half and still turned and had the gall to try and be like, yo, Rey, you ain't got no daddy, but I got what you need, a.k.a. Kylo Daddy. Like, I love that. Kylo Ren is fucked up. And the fact that he killed Snoke after they built Snoke up so much, good. What do we need this guy being there in the next movie again, being like this force, blah, blah, blah. Darth Vader was on a chain. Darth Vader was on a leash. Kylo Ren is not. We have a Skywalker now ruling the galaxy. This guy's the sickest fucking character. And you're like, nah, he throws temper tantrums. Well, it turns out rage makes him stronger. I mean, it turns him into a fool, but it makes him stronger. I love that character, and I love that Snoke was nothing but a stepping stone. And I watch other YouTube theory channels, and like they're like, Snoke is still alive. No. God, I hope not. He is fucking dead. And he should be dead. You fucked with a Skywalker, dude. You fucked up. Who do you think you are? Us? You think you're the good guys? The kids like us and Rey that heard legends of Luke Skywalker growing up? Nah, bro. You fucked with a Skywalker directly, and you underestimated him. That's one thing that Rey won't do. One thing that we would never do if we had her lightsaber. Snoke's a loser, and he's an idiot, and his plans suck. His first plan is, I'm going to build a bigger Death Star. His next plan is, I'm going to get Kylo, and I'm going to berate him in front of his new girl here. Big fuck up, dude. You got cut in half, and that shot that they show of him with his tongue hanging out of his mouth, good. All of our Snoke theories sucked. Every single one of us had a shit-ass Snoke theory. Oh, Snoke is Mace Windu. Snoke is Darth Plagueis. Snoke is this. And I'm one of these guys. This is better. Who's Snoke? He's a bitch that fucked with the Skywalker when he shouldn't have. Got what he deserved. So if you want more Snoke, pray they write comics about him. Pray they write a book about him. For me, I know exactly who he is. He's an overly cocky dark side user that fucked with the Skywalker and got what he deserved. I don't care about him anymore. For me, that's good. Fuck him. Another thing is, like, when you get a character introduced, like, if you do like Snoke, don't feel bad that you don't get any more Snoke. Dude, Darth Maul didn't say a single word and got cut in half. We have TV shows about him. We have books about him, comics. Like, you'll get some Snoke bullshit. Don't worry about it. You'll get that. But if you wanted Snoke to be the big bad baddie because he's so powerful, bro, I got you one better. Kylo Ren killed him. Kylo Ren is the big bad baddie. He's even stronger, sneakier, more manipulative, greedy. Yes, he had a little bit of conflict, but Snoke said it himself. Where there was conflict, I only see resolve now. And he got sliced in half like a biatch. Love that part. So sick. This is another thing that's important, that if it goes across any of your complaints about the movie, the Resistance is garbage. They're not the rebellion. They said it at the beginning of The Force Awakens. The Resistance is shit. They're poor. They don't have numbers. A lot of them are young. Princess Leia gets no support. Why? If you read the books, you know that people know she's the granddaughter of Darth Vader, so they don't trust her. The Republic never backed Leia when she started the Resistance, and on top of it, those planets are gone now. They blew up. So Leia's got no support. So if you're like, why are those bombers all shit? Why don't they use Y-wings? Why don't they have A-wings? Where are the B-wings at? Why don't they have better technology? How many are, they're garbage. They got no love. The only people that support them are people that knew that the First Order was evil. Other than that, they don't have anything. So don't expect them to have good shit. Poe's Black X-Wing is one of the most useful things that they have, other than BB-8, who is the most useful person in the entire movie and Resistance. So Leia's got no pull. The Resistance is garbage. Their technology is shit. They don't have good numbers. And they have nothing but kids. Rose, Finn, Poe. These are young, idiotic kids. Idiotic, yeah, I love Poe. He's my favorite character, new character. He's a fucking moron. So's Finn. He's a pussy. He runs. Rose, she's a little psychotic. You don't have anything, man. It is not looking good. The best thing we have is Rey with a broken lightsaber. And everyone else, they're not good characters. They have a lot to grow, and they did in this movie. Everything they did, even the shitty things that you hated, were part of a purpose. I'm going to get into it. I loved it. And lastly, this is a very important one. If you were looking at Star Wars and you're like, that's not how gravity works, that's stupid. How could they do this when, why would hyperspace have that? How could you track hyperspace? It's like, yo, listen to me, dude, okay? We got a little green goblin that floats rocks in episode 5, which is the best one in the series. You cannot look at Star Wars and be like, oh, wow, so I guess blasters blast like that, like downwards, and how do the bombs drop from the bombers in gravity? It's like, well, okay, I could go and debate with you. Well, the dreadnought is so big, it might have its own gravitational pull. Or how about I just say it's Star Wars, and little green goblins can make things float? Star Wars battles have always kind of operated like they were underwater more so than they were in space. So if you scrutinize this movie with a scientific eye, or your scientific eye is what bothers you about it, that's really silly, and you should never come into Star Wars with science eye. Star Trek does that. Star Wars does not do that. It never has. Science has never been something useful to Star Wars, okay? So, saying if that's your angle, I can't support it. All right. I know some people had issues with wooden acting. I have a list here of a collection of things that people complained about, and I'm going to go and I'm going to break them down. Wooden acting for some from Rey, especially in the Octo scenes. Acting is in Star Wars. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Mark Hamill gave one of the best Star Wars performances that has ever been. Kylo Ren and Rey scenes were some of the best acting I've ever seen in a Star Wars. They were incredible. Andy Serkis gives a phenomenal performance. I find Finn funny. I could find if you don't find Finn funny, then you will not like his scenes. You'll think he's a bad actor. He's funny to me. But I can't defend everything. Some people just don't like it. Like, I know people, I meet people like, oh, you see Star Wars? And they'll be like, no, I don't like Star Wars. I'm not going to be like, oh my God, you idiot. It's the best thing. It's so important in my life. I wouldn't say that. Some people don't like it. It is what it is. For me, Finn's jokes never bothered me. And I'm not like the part of the camp that are like, there shouldn't be jokes. It's like, what are you talking about? Every single thing Han Solo ever said was a joke. And whether it's hard to accept or not, in many ways, Finn's character is the Han Solo. He is like the bad guy turned to a good guy that didn't want to be in the fight, that ran away initially and then came back at a crucial moment. Finn and Han Solo are parallels. So if you don't find Finn funny, you're racist. Kidding. That's a joke. That's a joke, people. I really believe that, Finn and Rose had a good chemistry. And I know that scene and that dynamic is something that bothered people. Like people being like, oh, what is this forced love interest? Forced love interest between Finn and Rose. That's not like Rose is like, oh, I love you like I want to kiss you and marry you and make babies with you. She loves like she cares, like she got love. She's not in love. Yes, it was one day. Yes, she kissed him. But let's be honest. These are people in their 20s. If I were in a near-death experience with a girl all day long and she saved my life, like, yeah, maybe there's a kiss on the lips there. And being like, I really love you, like maybe that's there. That's realistic. What's not realistic is rolling around by yourself on a planet with a girl complaining about sand just to sell the fact that these two are in love. It's more subtle, it's more natural, it's slow. And what they did in the movie is they did something very wise. People love romanticizing the characters. People are like, oh, I love it, like Finn and Rose. Or maybe it's Finn and Rey. Some people are even like Finn and Poe, Kylo and Rey, Rey and Poe, Poe and Leia. Like people have these romanticized aspects, and like you could have multiple crushes on multiple people. The fact that Rose kissed Finn to me is normal. And like, let me explain something. People are like, oh, Finn should have died there. No, that would be a pointless death. And the reason why we're not just going to give him a pointless death is because from the very beginning of the movie, they hammer it into you. There are no hero deaths. There are no heroic sacrifices. This isn't Star Wars. This is real life. Poe, you took down a dreadnought, but they have 1,000 dreadnoughts and you just lost like 80% of the resistance. Important people that could pilot bombers and bombers. And one of those bomber pilots is Rose's sister. So why did Rose stop Finn from killing himself? Because there's no such thing as a heroic sacrifice in Star Wars anymore. It's a trope. It's overused. It's tiring. And you know what? I didn't know I wanted it until they gave it to me. Don't kill Finn. Why? Why kill Finn? Just so it delays the First Order from getting into that door? So that the Resistance can die in that cave because Finn saved the day by crashing into the battering ram gun? Stupid name, by the way. Like, that to me is smart that Rose came and saved it. Because then when she saves the day, you're like, oh, Finn dying would have been pointless. Luke's coming. And then if people are like, well, you didn't know that Luke was coming, at least the movie, because it is a movie, which means it's a story, at least the movie quotes Leia literally 5 minutes before by saying, like, if you have to see the sun to believe it, then you'll never make it through the night. If you had to see Luke to believe that he was coming to save the day, then you literally would have flown into that fucking battering ram cannon and died for nothing. For nothing. So in my opinion, Rose saving Finn was that new message to the future of Star Wars. And Laura Dern's character saves it too. When Laura Dern did not tell Finn the plan, they're saying like, yo, there's no heroes. This is real life now. This is real life. There's no magic in this movies other than Rey. And other than the Force being inside of us, we're all going to act like humans now. Because after episode 4, where the Force was mystical and no one believed in it, in episode 5, it became a superpower. Episode 6 was like, yeah, use the Force, the superpower, you know. Use it to shoot up the thing and bomb stuff and make stuff float and protect yourself. And the Force became this superpower that, like, you know, meant everyone can close their eyes and sacrifice themselves for the greater good and be like, the Force. But we lost the human aspect. And now the Force is this, like, mystical thing again. This mystical, spiritual thing again. And it's in all of us. But don't just kill yourself to sacrifice yourself. We need you. How many people are left in the Resistance? Enough to fit on the Millennium Falcon. We're talking about 15 people. Thank fucking God Rose came in and actually saved Finn from killing himself. Because it would have been a waste. And that didn't just come from nowhere in the movie. They backed it up by saying Rose already lost her sister for a pointless suicide mission. So there's that. And back it up with, yeah, Luke comes, but if you have to see the sun to believe in it, you won't make it through the night. So as a movie and in the storytelling realm, that was a safe move and the right move of Rose saving Finn there. A lot of people don't like the Canto subplot, the Canto bite. I agree that you cannot like it. I get it. It's goofy, it's silly, it feels like the prequels. It ultimately didn't have to happen. It was a fucked up plan and a failure. But Yoda says it. Failure is the best teacher. Why didn't Laura Dern's character tell Poe what was happening? Why would she? Who's Poe? He was a commander, and now he's a captain. Yeah, he's the best resistance pilot, but she's a hard believer in do not idolize your heroes. And it's okay to not idolize people. The whole movie is about not idolizing people. We idolize Snoke, cut in half. We idolize Luke. He's fucking crazy, drinking from alien tits. We idolize people, and they let you down. Do not idolize. You idolize Poe? The guy just got the whole bombing fleet killed. You think he deserves to hear the plan? As far as I'm concerned, if I was Laura Dern's character, I would have thrown him in the brig. That's what he gets. He learned a valuable lesson, though, and he is next in line to take over for General Leia. But he fucked up. He fucked up, and then his second plan, where he went on mutiny and everything, major fuck up. And she said, if you have to see the sun to make it through the night, to believe in the sun, you'll never make it. And it's true. Poe had no faith. So Poe learned two very important things. One, don't be cocky. Two, don't sacrifice for nothing. And three, have a little faith. He has no faith. And one thing preventing Poe from basically being everything that a Jedi could be is the guy has no faith. He does now, though. Now he does. He learned that by the end of the movie. But back to Canto Bight, his scene, his plan, with Finn and Rose going there. What I liked about this whether or not you appreciate how they showed it, or whether or not you like them being like her taking the saddle off and freeing the animal and being like, now it's worth it. What was good about the scene is two things. Number one, it shows us that everybody in the movie fails. Everyone in the movie fails, and they hit that at home again. They really like let that nail. Failure is the best teacher is brought back again, the Yoda thing. Failure is the best teacher, and let the past go. Kill it if you have to, okay? This part right here is Finn and Rose showing us a part of Star Wars we've never gotten in the movies before. First of all, Rose as a character. You know, in like the Battle of Hoth and all these other Star Wars movies where you got people running left and right in the background while there's explosions and shit, and you don't really think anything about them because we're looking at the smuggler, the Jedi, and the princess and the Wookiee. We're so interested in our heroes. We don't care about the people that are running behind us blowing up. That's Rose. And we finally got that person in these movies. We got that person from their point of view firsthand. We got to experience a nobody rebel. So I appreciated having that nobody rebel with us on this mission. I liked her perspective. And it was valuable because even if you don't like her taking the saddle off, she showed us to Finn like, hey, these people are rich because, you know, they profit off of war, which is interesting, something we never got before. You always assume that everyone's involved in the war. Everyone is either crushed by the Empire or part of the resistance. And in this case, no. Some people just live in life, like our boy DJ, aka Don't Join. So like, we get to see the downtrodden, the boys there that are getting whipped by their master, the animals being abused, and then the rich that are just living off of the war, profiteering off of people that get killed and evil domination. Very interesting. I'm happy they showed that to us. Now, maybe you don't like the scene itself, but I'm happy we witnessed it. Now, it does get a little preachy, but it's a kid's movie. And if you thought it at all got Disney, perhaps in this moment it does, where it says, you know, animal cruelty and baby. It didn't take it out of the movie for me. It didn't ruin the movie for me. And Star Wars having a preachy message isn't the craziest thing. I value what they showed us. Now, what's interesting is they gave us the Benicio del Toro character, and his name is DJ, aka Don't Join. And he has some of the best lines in the movie. He says to Finn, like, hey, be free. Don't join. Good guys, bad guys, it's all a machine. Even when he double crosses our heroes, he says to Finn, he's like, take it easy, Big F. First of all, he calls him Big F, hilarious. He goes, they blow you up today, you blow them up tomorrow. I find it interesting, and maybe I'm overthinking it too much, that like a Coen Brothers character, a character that's really not a Star Wars character at all, has stepped into a Star Wars movie. I feel like the whole war thing is stupid. Good guys, bad guys, same thing. Just a machine. They blow you up, you blow them up, whatever, man. And it's true. When you put it like that, that's all Star Wars has been. What about the real people? Here they are, some of them are slaves. Here they are, some of them are rich. Here they are, some of them are just capitalizing off the entire process because it doesn't affect them. I loved Benicio del Toro's character. Ain't a damn thing wrong with him. The fact that he played it up like a character like that, that's amazing. I mean, if he had an alien face, we wouldn't be bothered by his stutter, but apparently some people were just bothered by it. I disagree. I loved it. Some people say The Last Jedi does not add to the mythology of the Jedi or Force in any way that has not already been done by other Star Wars media. That is true. It adds nothing. Didn't add a brand new thing at all. I mean, Leia's moment and the mind reading and stuff, that stuff they dabbled in The Force Awakens already. But it wasn't about adding. What they did was they cleaned house. And this is why it hurt so many people. This is why I felt abused. Rian Johnson came in and burnt a lot of it to the ground and took the most important seeds of Star Wars and planted a new garden. And I really value that. I love that. I mean, they didn't add the whole Force thing, but like I said, they didn't add to the Force thing, but like I said, they changed an important thing from the prequels, is they opened it back up. The Force is in all of us, especially with the pump fake of Rey's lineage, and we're all like, oh, she's someone, just so we could pay attention more when she ends up being nobody, when she ends up being us. That's amazing. When I watch The Force Awakens now and Kylo, the Skywalker, is trying to pull that lightsaber and he doesn't get it and it lands and Rey catches it, I'm like, that's us. He's me. And I love that. I really like that a lot. I'm happy they did that. And that's what The Last Jedi changes of the past ones. People say, oh, the rebels begin the movie in the exact same state that they ended the movie. They didn't do anything, a stupid cat and mouse chase. Thank God the movie didn't end with blowing up a ship like it did at the beginning. I like that they put the end of the movie battle type scene at the beginning. It was very exciting. Like, I'm tired of them going and blowing up a ship like that. And I think the cat and mouse thing was very interesting. If you watch Star Trek a lot, this is an interesting thing. I mean, this is an interesting battle. It's an interesting setup. The mentality of being on that ship and hearing boom, 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 of like bolts hitting the shield for 18 hours. It's mind-numbing. It's crazy. It's interesting. It's cool. And the people that are like, wow, they just light speed in front of them and cut them off. Do you know how light speed works? I don't know how light speed works. The way light speed works the other way is because Admiral Holdo goes through them. So if you want to die and maybe go through these ships, maybe that's an option. But I'm not certain that you can 100-mile light speed dash, stop, turn around, and be in the position to fight. I'm not sure that's the case. But it is funny for us to sit here and be like, why don't they just do that? None of us fly the spaceships. I never once gathered that that was something they could do. It seemed like they were being outrun. And it seems like if you light speed, even for a millisecond, you'll end up in another galaxy. It's light speed. If you light speed a millisecond, you're not like right in front of them, turned around, you know? You're very far. So not an option, in my opinion. I never thought that. I never left the movie being like, that's an option. What the hell? But the Rebels Resistance are in a much different spot than they were at the beginning of the movie. Very different. The Resistance is down from 1,000 people to a handful of people. Who are these people? They're all together, and I'm referring to The Last Jedi, Rey, the Jedi books, our heroes, Finn and Poe, who have grown an enormous amount in this movie, an enormous amount. Leia, who's finally come in tune with her abilities from the Force that they hinted at in Return of the Jedi in the comic books. Chewbacca is here with R2 and BB-8. They're aboard the Millennium Falcon with a broken lightsaber. And most importantly, everyone is a witness of The Last Jedi, the legend of Luke Skywalker. And every single future Jedi that ever grabs a lightsaber to stand against the First Order will be doing so because they heard the legend of Luke Skywalker. You know what that means? That means us. Just like we saw the whole story and we heard the legends of Luke Skywalker and we all told tales for 30 years being like, he can crush AT-ATs, he could pull down a Star Destroyer with the Force, he could do this, he could do that. Those are legends, man. But we saw what he really did. He faced down the most powerful Force user in the history of Star Wars. And he faced him down and got in his head. And he did it in the most peaceful Jedi manner without actually even being there. That was fucking sick. I wanted it. Look at my old predictions. I'm like, I want Luke to put the red kyber crystal in his saber and beat up 1 billion stormtroopers and fucking crush AT-ATs. And I want like 1,000 stormtroopers to pull their guns. And then I want 1,000 projections of Luke Skywalker behind all of them, slitting their throats with a lightsaber. And then he flies into the moon. And like, I just wanted all this. But what he did was so much better. It was so much more the Jedi way. And if you want those scenes of a Skywalker fucking shit up, I promise you, Kylo will give you those. Don't forget he's a Skywalker. Don't forget he's the strongest Skywalker. And don't forget he's a bad guy. So when he goes and starts pulling down ships with thousands of people on it, it makes a lot more sense. Luke Skywalker is sacred. He's a Jedi. He does the battle and wins the battle without actually raising his lightsaber. He gets in the head. And that's sick. And I think in the next movie, Kylo Ren's going to have Luke Skywalker in his brain. Like a ghost one there, berating them. I know a lot of people are like, oh, inconsistent timing. Oh, the Radis and Octo, like Rey is training for multiple days on Octo while the Radis is, being bombarded for 18 hours. For the sake of my rule that we can't scrutinize it science-wise, light speed bends time. We don't know how long they're on in light speed, and we don't know a day cycle on Octo. For example, a day on Jupiter is 9 hours. So maybe it was a couple days, and it still was 18 hours. The Resistance bombers were weird in concept, completely flawed, and why don't they have Y-wings? That's because they're poor. Told you, Resistance is not the rebellion, they're poor. People like, oh, lightspeed tracking is thought to be impossible, but then they're figured out by Rose and Finn in about 10 seconds. This is where you're reaching for it to be bad, where you're like, oh my God, look at that. Let me explain something. Rose is a mechanic. She understands the concepts of the ship. She's not building a lightspeed tracker, but she knows how it works. She understands how it works. So like, What I imagine here is that your car mechanic can't build you a Ferrari, but he sure as hell can go and cut the engine. And if you're like, hyperspace technology has never been introduced in Star Wars before, I'm going to be like, boy, if you want to scrutinize these movies like that, if you want to go, but it's never even been mentioned, as if they can't invent it in the 30 years that we haven't seen a movie. If you want that callback, they got you. Here it is in Rogue One. They mention it. So what I'm saying is here, if you want to nitpick and scrutinize, that's what I'm doing. I would never nitpick and scrutinize this movie. I walked out and I was like, fucking great movie. But if people are going to nitpick and scrutinize, well, I'll play that game too. I'll go into that hole with you and I'll be like, I loved it. And if you're going to be like, yeah, but they light speed tracking, that's never existed. Meh. I'll be like, well, actually this one scene, Jyn Erso does mumble it while looking. So they do it. They talk about it. They mention it. And this is a friendly discussion. I need to remind people, I understand if you don't like this movie. He took something we loved and expected, pulled it from our hands, shot it in the air, and blasted it with a gun. And we complained. But when it shattered, everything that was inside there that's raining down on us now are the best parts of this series. The best things. We all had a very hard time letting the past die. And Rian Johnson killed it because he had to. People are like, oh, the First Order keeps getting bigger and bigger, their ships, and more useless and more useless. Maybe there's debatably an issue with the First Order scaling in the movie. Like when they were on Crate, they should have just had an endless line of ATXTs or whatever. They should have just done that. But that First Order Dreadnought, they have thousands of those. And that scene wasn't about showing you how useless the First Order is. Instead, it was showing you how cocky Poe is. And that Poe is the best pilot we've ever seen in the Star Wars universe. He is amazing. And so that was a scene for Poe. Not to be like, the First Order is useless. And I know some people were laughing at General Hux, that they don't like that he's a laughing stock. They're like, he's not leadership material. He's not. That's why he bowed down to Snoke, and now he bows down to Kylo. He's a bitch. And I like him better funny. Because in the last movie, he gave his whole speech dead serious about the First Order, and we will let them burn, blah, blah, blah. And people laughed at that when he was being serious. So embrace that side. Embrace him being funny, and that's funny to me. I thought him reaching for his blaster with Kylo on the floor was hilarious. I thought Snoke slamming him on his face and dragging him across the Star Destroyer was hilarious. I like that. Some people complain that Captain Phasma's a joke. Yeah, debatably, but so is Boba Fett, so is Darth Maul, and now so is Snoke. But if you like them, then be happy they were introduced, because she's already got awesome comics. So if you wanted her more in the movie, like, that's your expectations working against you. And one big thing here is a lot of people's problems are their expectations worked against them. A great post on Reddit had said, wow, I guess people wanted to be right more than they wanted a great movie. And that's what I noticed was a big thing that happened. So Captain Phasma, people being like, I'm disappointed. Why? Because she's shiny? She's a shiny trooper, so you wanted her to do so much more? I like the role she played. Stepping stone for Finn. And to be honest with you, I think she will be back. I think she's like the T-1000 of this shit. I think she's like a relentless force that will always be back, and I think that's cool about her, is you just can't kill this bitch. But if you wanted more from her because she's shiny, then you just set yourself up for disappointment. People are like, the humor is out of place and too regular. Humor is not out of place. Some people are like, what about Poe saying your mom to Hux? Which is funny because that's the first one people say because it's the beginning of the movie. But that's funny to me because that joke serves a purpose. At first, it's like, wow, they're joking. Wow, they're dragging it on. Are they going to keep dragging this? Are they going to keep dragging this joke onwards? What's the plan here? And then you realize that Poe isn't trying to be funny and is not being funny. Poe is stalling. This whole joke is supposed to go on. It's supposed to be dragged on so we could see that it's a tense moment, it's a dramatic moment, and the main primary function of this moment is to stall Hux. Secondary-wise, it's to be funny. But the first thing is to stall. That's why it drags on. And, you know, the your mom thing, that's opinion. If you don't like it, I get it. I totally get it if you don't like that. I understand. Not every joke is for everyone. I laughed at it. But then again, I suck this movie's and this franchise's teeth. So some people say Luke Skywalker is criminally underused and written completely against character. That's funny to say that. You being like, oh, that's so not Luke Skywalker? Really? All we know of Luke Skywalker is from 23 years old to 27 years old, and we've seen him in about 17 conversations and scenarios. We don't know a damn thing about Luke Skywalker. And as far as I'm concerned, how they showed him was fucking amazing. Like his day-to-day and him on Octo and his attitude, and then when he saw R2 and everything, this is exactly how Luke Skywalker would be. He's not the legend of Luke Skywalker. And if you look at my old videos, I wanted him to be a god. I wanted him to be the godliest god. Like, yo, I got the answers. I know what's up. But no, he's a human. Luke Skywalker's a human, and he makes mistakes, and he happened to make the biggest mistake. And it's a gross mistake, too. And I respect Rian Johnson taking off his Super Star Wars nerd hat and putting on his writing hat instead. Because in that scenario, he did for Luke so much more than I could have done. Because I would have had Luke being like, on October, waiting for the right moment to crush the First Order by squeezing them like this. Or whatever I would have done. I love what they did. They made him fallen. And I wasn't ready to see a fallen Luke Skywalker so long after Return of the Jedi when he looked like he had his shit together. I wasn't ready for that. That's why when I left the movie, I felt abused. I felt like a victim. Like, they fucked me up, dude. But it was the right thing to do. Because his redemption at the end of the movie makes him sacred. It makes him the key to every single good guy in the Star Wars universe moving forward. I would have wasted him, having him just cut up First Order troopers. Something that a Sith does, or any other random Jedi. I very much loved those scenes. I love what they did with him. Love that he was fallen. I love that he came back. Mark Hamill's performance was incredible. And seeing him with Yoda was so good. That puppet Yoda was incredible. And like all those things where it's like, let the past die, let the past die. If you're having a hard time at the movie right now, if you have a hard time dealing with Luke Skywalker being like, I'm going to burn the Jedi texts, because you're like, oh my God, he should be the sickest big dick swinging Jedi in the universe. He's the last Jedi. And that would take a toll on someone, especially a human. So when Yoda shows up, perfect timing. And that puppet Yoda, and if you had a hard time listening to the trailer or listening to Kylo Ren saying, let the past die, or any of that, if you had a hard time, well, here, it's Yoda, the puppet, and he's here to light the Force tree on fire and to say, let the past die. So for me, when Yoda appeared and struck lightning on the tree, burning the text, that's when I was like, okay. I'm ready for the new one. No one could have convinced me, maybe, except Yoda. And he did it. He came and he convinced me in that moment when he lit that on, that tree, to let the past die. How valuable it is to get the end of Luke Skywalker's story. We downplay that. What do you want? Him running, old, doing cool moves and stuff? Listen, I would take it. I would love it. When does it end? We have episode 6.5 and the 30-year gap there where they could tell tons of stories of Luke Skywalker kicking ass. Heck, they could release an Xbox game where Luke Skywalker kicks ass and you're training a young Ben Solo. They could do that. But it is so valuable for us to get the end of Luke Skywalker in these movies. And if you asked me last year if I want Luke Skywalker to end, I would say no. Not in episode 8 or episode 9. He should never die. He should always be there. No. He should transcend. And he did. And I'm happy he did. And I'm happy he did because Yoda gave me a stern talking to. That's one guy that I really would listen to. Other people saying there's little to no information given on the galaxy at large, the state of the First Order. Who is the First Order? Who was Snoke? Who's the First Order? Who's Snoke? Who gives a shit? We didn't know who the Jedi were. We didn't even know that Darth Vader was called a Sith when we saw all these movies. We didn't know who the Emperor was or where he came from. It didn't matter. They focused on the story, dog. They focused on the story. This is Kylo's story. Who are the First Order? They're fucking scary army. Who's Snoke? He's the big bad Force user. Who cares? But what I really care about is what's going to happen with the Skywalker bloodline. Is this guy going to kill his mom like he killed his dad? That's interesting to me. That's what I want to know. I didn't even know Darth Vader was a dad. It didn't affect the movie, but these days people want all the answers. They want so many answers. And back in the day, Star Wars had no answers, so many questions, and it was fucking crazy. People like the Force. Like when Obi-Wan lets Darth Vader kill him, it's like, did he die? What's happening, man? And for the first time in my life, a Star Wars movie comes out where I'm like, what is happening? And it's beautiful. It's a good thing. I know that like a lot of YouTube channels depend on there being clear-cut questions that they could come up with clear-cut theories. Star Wars doesn't give a fuck about your daydreams of Luke Skywalker or your questions about the First Order. Star Wars doesn't give a fuck. And it shouldn't. Star Wars should be about what it should be about. What it should be about, thank God the audience doesn't write it. The audience writes Justice League movies. The audience writes those movies. The audience comes up with what the stories should be in these comic movies, and these companies bend to the will of your complaints online. Star Wars does not. And it shouldn't. It's a trailblazing movie concept. It always has been. And if the movie was predicted by a YouTube channel, that's not cool to me. I'm glad that not only can you not predict where it's going, you don't even have the questions to ask. The Force Awakens brought in a lot of questions. Oh, who's Snoke? Who's the First Order? Who's Rey? Who's her mommy and daddy? What's Kylo going to do? And then like The Last Jedi burns that shit to the ground. And we're like, what the fuck? And it's good. Who cares? We wanted Rey to go face Kylo, and Kylo changed Rey to the dark side, and Rey changed Kylo to the light side, and Snoke comes in, and they have like a three-way battle, and Luke comes in and saves the day, and they escape on the Millennium Falcon, and all that shit that we've seen before. No, they didn't give you what you've seen before. They set up every question that's a question that we've asked before, and we're all like, we know where this goes. People made up YouTube videos being like, this is where it goes. It makes sense. We've seen it before. It's a poem. It rhymes. Record scratch. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. You didn't know? It's about the last Skywalker. The last Skywalker, and he now dominates the universe. And who's there to stand in front of him? Nobody except us. Us! The people that heard the legend of Luke Skywalker. That's a better story. Because the other one, we saw it in episode 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6. We don't need that again. We don't need that. Snoke got cut in half, and I felt abused. I felt like I wasted my life. I was like, what the fuck, man? Who is he? And then they cut back to him on his side, and his tongue hanging out, and he's dead. And I saw that, and I was like, who gives a shit? Who is Snoke? Well, he's a bitch that fucked with the Skywalker. That's what he is. I'm happy he's gone. It's gutsy. It's ballsy. It's risky. And in a world where fan complaints can change the direction of a movie, I'm glad that Star Wars is giving carte blanche to be like, sorry, boys and girls, fuck y'all. This is the story. Let's be honest, Rian Johnson's a better storyteller than probably 99% of the people reading this right now. When the movie was done, Rian Johnson was like, yeah, a lot of you guys are going to want to see a movie of the Knights of Ren. He's true, I do. I don't know if the Knights of Ren happened before The Force Awakens or if they happened in The Last Jedi. I thought the Knights of Ren may have been those red dudes. Because, I mean, those red dudes themselves were like potential Force users themselves. Rey and Kylo don't use the Force on them, so maybe their suits that they're wearing are Force protective. Wouldn't be the first time in the Star Wars universe. They have blades that can deflect lightsabers. So I was like, maybe those are the Knights of Ren. But if I want to ask myself questions now, I could be like, who are the Knights of Ren? Who are they to Kylo? Are they from the past? Or are they from the front? From the future? The front. And do they have the Force? Are they going to be in the next episode? Is Kylo going to be in the next episode, in episode 9, with the Knights of Ren? It's going to be like 10 dudes with red lightsabers? Because that'd be fucked up and cool. I don't know. Interesting. But yeah, the Knights of Ren. Just because a question is raised doesn't mean it's going to get answered. Right? Knights of Ren are one of them. For me, that's something I desperately look forward to. This is episode 2 of 3, by the way. Or episode 8 of 9. So if you have questions, that's normal. I just like that the questions aren't so clear-cut anymore. People being like, oh, the merchandising forced into the movie, like the porgs. I said it before. Ewoks were merchandisers, and they actually won the war. So I'm happy the porgs didn't interrupt that much, and I found them funny. I liked it. Leia's scene. I'm so happy what it represents. A lot of people didn't know that Leia can use the Force. They didn't know how Force sensitive she is. And now in this scene in the movie, they finally showed us how Force sensitive is Leia. This Force sensitive. So Force sensitive that you look at the movie and be like, wow, I don't know if they should have done that. I would have not done that. But what would I have done? Who knows? And also when Leia cuts through the bridge when Poe has a mutiny and she comes back and the door goes flying open, did she force push that door? I don't know. So I love what her scene represented, but that scene itself is a fucked up scene in my opinion. I don't know about it. I don't know. Maybe if I go back and enjoy it in the future, we'll see. Maybe it plays into episode 9. I know she's so important in episode 9. So who knows? Who knows what will happen of it? But it's definitely an interesting decision. Interesting choice, and the CG is questionable, but it has a cool meaning to it. But yes, it's up there as a weird scene on my list. And The Force Awakens does not have a single scene that looks like that. That is like in my... I didn't find one scene in Force Awakens where I was like, oh, I don't know about this scene. That one, every time I watch it, I go back to the theater, I look at other strangers' faces just so I could see how they're feeling, and people are always like... People want Luke kept for episode 9. So there's a dramatic character death. I love Luke dying in The Last Jedi, and I don't think he dies. I mean, he disappears, and what does disappearing mean? Well, it means he can come back and strike lightning and blow stuff up, because Yoda did that, so it's not that bad. It means he can come back for 2 movies worth of time and teach Rey, because Obi-Wan did that for him. And before he dies, he literally looks to Leia and says, no one is ever truly gone. Luke Skywalker's in the next movie. I promise you, trust me. And I value Luke Skywalker dying and disappearing and us getting that closure and then getting the peak, a whole movie's worth of a peak of what happens with Luke after Luke. So we'll get Luke in the next one, and I value that. I really want to see where they go with him. And I think that's cooler than him dying in episode 9 and fading, and then we don't know. We just get no more Luke Skywalker. At least we know how the legend of Luke Skywalker will play out after Luke Skywalker, and that's an excellent ending. I love that he played Kylo like a bitch. I love that scene. I know a lot of people had a problem with him wiping the dirt off his shoulder. I didn't. I almost like cried when C-3PO was like, Master Skywalker. And he looks at him and winks. Oh, I love that. That was sick. And his dodge move that he did, like he looked like Darth Maul when he dodged Kylo's saber. They were really smart here. Number 1, Kylo is so blinded by the dark side, he doesn't even realize that Luke just pulled out the same lightsaber that he and Rey blew up. Literally a moment before this, Rey and Kylo blew up that lightsaber. Although he did get knocked out and he doesn't know what happened, who knows, but he did get that blown up. He should have put that together. Secondly, another thing they did was they show Kylo's leg move on the salt, and it moves the salt. Then they show Luke's leg move on the salt, moves nothing, as if he's not even there. So if Kylo wasn't so dark side blinded, he could have seen and got a hint that maybe Luke wasn't even there. When it cuts to Luke with his legs crossed on Octo, fucking loved it. And then he fades away or transcends into the Force while looking at the binary sunset. Such a perfect fucking moment. I loved it. I hated Laura Dern saying, may the Force be with us. And Godspeed, rebels. I wish her death was Leia's death, in my opinion. I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, they killed Admiral Akbar and they just mentioned him. Once again, your brain is ruining your experience of the movie. You're like, Admiral Akbar's a legend. Okay, he's a big fish, and they're called Mon Calamari, which is a dumb name. And he's like, he goes, it's a trap. That's what he says. And as the internet and as people, we put him up to legendary status because it's funny and it's a joke and he's a meme. He's a meme. The fact that he's a meme is why they say Admiral Akbar is dead. But Admiral Akbar, even getting that is a lot. You think he should have got a scene? That shouldn't have been Admiral Akbar that light speeds through that shit. I mean, I'd rather him than Laura Dern, but definitely Leia over Akbar. Like, Akbar is great, but they mentioned him. That's good enough. You don't need to get him like blowing up, being like, oh, it's a bomb. Like, you don't need that. That's your head making the movie worse for you. That's your expectations fucking it up for yourself. Happy you didn't write the movie, man. You would have given Admiral Akbar like 6 minutes being like, don't fall in any traps without me. Like, it's better this way. I'm much happier. I love that he got the mention. That's important. And what's interesting, everyone's like, wow, Akbar this, Akbar that. It's like, yo, dog, Nine Numb is still alive in the Millennium Falcon. Can you believe Nine Numb is still around? That's fucking gangster. No one saw that coming. People being like, oh my God, Finn drags Rose all across the First Order, across Luke. If you watch carefully, Poe's ship blows up and he lands and he falls inside of a trench. And then in the trench, he runs into a tunnel. You see it in the movie clearly. There's trenches, there's shortcuts. If you played Battlefront, then you know you could take shortcuts through the trenches and get back to the door. You could literally walk it. So no, Poe isn't dragging Rose across the fucking long-ass landscape. There's trenches there with shortcuts. Like, fuck, it's like the movie has to spell shit out for people because they're such rabid idiots. They want to viciously tear apart the movie. They're like, oh, what am I supposed to believe? Poe went and Finn went and dragged Rose across in front of everyone and in front of Luke. And it's like, God, they actually had to go and make trenches just for your dumb ass to shut the fuck up, okay? There's trenches. Rose clearly got dragged through the trenches just like Poe got back to the base when his skitter blew up, dude. And if you want, you can fucking load up Battlefront, the fucking gambling video game, and you can go play through that level if you want. But like, I feel bad for the movie makers. These movies get scrutinized so hard, they got to cover their bases. They got to say in Rogue One, hyperspace tracking, because God forbid, after 30 years of there being a movie, that they have new technology to be like, yeah, there's hyperspace tracking now. They have to spell it out in the scroll that, like, yes, the rebellion is not the resistance. The resistance is not the rebellion, so don't complain when you don't see Y-Wings. It's 30 years. They spell this shit out for you guys. You guys still fucking write it on the internet? There's trenches, dude. And shortcuts, no. Finn probably did not drag her ass across the big fucking barren landscape in front of the First Order. They showed us the trenches so you could shut the fuck up. I'm sorry. But some of the things you guys get caught up with is wild. That being said, I understand if you didn't like the movie. I totally get it. I really do. I mean, Maz Kanata's feature moment, it did make some passing of information interesting. It did show you that she's tied up in a Union battle rather than being able to come save the Resistance because she is a Resistance ally. But it does make you think that, like, oh, but her 1,000-year-old castle got blown up by the First Order and she does help the Resistance. Why doesn't she go help them instead of whatever the fuck the Union is? They're just saying this world is so much bigger than you think it is. The First Order is not the whole universe. It's not. It just dominates the galaxy. And the Resistance is not the rebellion. There's not going to be 1,000 people here to watch Leia give out medals. No. There's enough people to fit on the fucking Millennium Falcon. Everything is fucked. All they have is the Last Jedi and a broken lightsaber. That's what they have. Times are bad. Times are different. I love where it went, but I get it if you don't. I also wanted a godly Luke Skywalker who would come in and pull down Star Destroyers and Dreadnoughts using the Force. But that's not who Luke Skywalker is. He's not godly. He's human. And this movie kept him sacred, and they made him a martyr. And now every single future Jedi will be directly relatable to us because we'll see them be like, yo, you followed the legend of Luke Skywalker, and I watched those movies. I know all about the legend of Luke Skywalker too. These future Jedis will talk about Luke Skywalker the way we spoke about Luke Skywalker. He's sacred and he's legendary and he's forever now. And those scenes of killing 1,000 stormtroopers with a lightsaber, Kylo Ren will do it. And pulling down like a Star Destroyer with the Force, if you want it, Kylo Ren might do it. And if you want to see a Jedi Force push 1 billion stormtroopers, make sure you watch the Obi-Wan movie. If you want to know more about these characters, they'll make movies, they'll make video games and comic books and spin-offs. But for me, The Last Jedi was incredible. It took the Star Wars box, the golden box that I'm like, it's so beautiful. It's like the Star Wars toy. I like keeping it in the package and presenting it and being like, look at it. It's so beautiful in the package. And I finally had a friend come over and rip open the package, show me that you can play with it in many different ways. And now episode 9 can go anywhere. And for the first time in my life, Star Wars movie is being released. I have no fucking clue where they're going with it. And I value that a lot. Kylo Ren is scary. Kylo Ren is a badass. If you thought he was a spoiled brat or if you thought he threw temper tantrums, he did. But he's different now. Anyways, I love The Last Jedi. I did. If you didn't like it, I support that. I agree with you. I'm not gonna insult you or anything. But if you're trying to tear apart the movie by saying it's too Disney or they made too many jokes or they like if you're gonna say it's too Disney, they made too many jokes or they put more merchandise in it, then dude, you never fucking knew what Star Wars was from the beginning. And this isn't for you. It's never has been for you. Don't act like you care about it just to watch it, to insult it. You're not the guy. But if you watched it and you were like, damn, I wanted them to be different with Luke, to you, I say I agree with you. I could support what you're saying. But if you have to see the sun to believe it's there, you'll never make it through the night. And it's important to think about that when waiting for episode 9. Just because you don't know where it's going doesn't mean it's going to be shit. Do not trust Disney. I do. Disney's created my childhood with movies. Disney's done phenomenal with Marvel. I'm not going to go and turn my back on Disney because they didn't do what I imagined in my brain on my YouTube channel that they would do for 2 years. I always said I'm happy I don't have to write this movie. I'm happy I don't have to come up with this. And I'm happy that they went where I didn't know where they were going. Because Star Wars is mysterious again. And I'm nervous. And I'm hopeful. And I'm curious. And I feel like young again with Star Wars. Star Wars has gone stale, man. Not to me because I suck the dick of Star Wars. I have like 5 different Luke toys because I'm like, he's wearing different clothes. I need the different ones. So that's just me. But for everyone else, I mean, there is so much more to Star Wars here to enjoy and appreciate. And I love The Last Jedi for taking that risk. I really do. And another thing for fun to imagine is imagine if Star Wars The Force Awakens, like when Last Jedi comes out, just do this cut. Play Star Wars The Force Awakens, and when Rey gives Luke the lightsaber, cut in him tossing it off the cliff, then roll the credits. If they gave that to us 2 years ago, that would have fucked our shit up for 2 years straight. It's really funny what Luke ends up doing after Rey gives him the saber, now that we know. But let me know in the comment section what you thought about it, what you thought about the movie, what you thought about me ranting about this shit for an hour. I mean, I just could not say everything I needed to say without doing a podcast format. I had to roll with it. It was all I could do. I love you guys. If I forgot anything or messed anything up, let me know because I got my shitty notepad there and I'm just winging it and rolling with it, talking to my B's and G's out there. So I'd love to you guys. May the Force be with us. No, you.